Yo, what is good, YouTube? Krishan checking back in with another video. In today's video, I will be giving you guys my top 10 predictions for the 2023 Mr. Olympia, as well as a few honorable mentions. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the Olympia coverage this weekend. And if you guys watch my news videos over the past few weeks, I may have said this guy's going to be in the top 10, this guy's going to be in the top 3, this guy's even going to win the Mr. Olympia. Some of those statements may have changed by the time this video comes out. I think you guys will enjoy these predictions. So let's start off with the honorable mentions. We have Regan Grimes and Charles Griffin. I believe that both of these guys can place within the top 10, but I'm not going to predict them to place top 10. If Regan comes in conditioned, he will be in the top 10. But based off what we saw this season, I'm not sure if Regan is going to bring it to the Olympia. He is looking great on Instagram as usual, but I just can't bet on Regan to bring the conditioning. Charles Griffin, great physique, really conditioned. As we know, he suffered that pec tear earlier this year. I think Charles can get into the top 10 if a few guys come in off. Overall, Charles doesn't have the most aesthetic physique. I think he needs more size to truly be competitive. And of course, that's just my personal opinion, but I wouldn't be surprised if either of these guys get into the top 10. So I think conditioning is going to hold back Regan Grimes, and Charles, I think guys structurally better will place ahead of him. Now my last honorable mention is going to be Hassan Mustafa. If Hassan nails it, he brings this Vancouver Pro package, he's going to be in the top 10 and is going to be higher than 10th. But if you just scroll over to Hassan's Instagram, it seems like he has been very bothered by certain issues going on in the world, and I think that could affect his look at this year's Olympia. I could be wrong, but I don't think Hassan is going to bring his best version to this year's show. If Hassan brings it, he's top 10. If not, he's out. So let's go ahead and actually get into my top 10 predictions, starting with 10th place, Andrea Presti, the King of Portugal. I think Presti is a guy that not a lot of people talk about, but Presti consistently brings the conditioning and has that crazy, overwhelming width. As far as why does Presti beat Regan and Charles, as I mentioned, I'm not sure if Regan will bring the conditioning, but I think that Presti will. In comparison to Charles, I think Presti is just better structurally with similar or better conditioning. Presti almost has that see-through skin like Michael Krizo. And the reason that I don't have Presti higher on my predictions is because of the leg size. I definitely believe that Presti has improved his legs over time. I know he has had numerous injuries to the legs, which makes it a little bit harder to train them, but I think that will hold him back from moving up at this year's Olympia. But I'm pretty confident in my 10th place pick in Andrea Presti. I think he's going to bring it this year. Now let's go into my 9th place prediction, and I've been saying this pretty much the entire year. I'm going to predict Tonio Burton in his second Olympia to take 9th place. Tonio will make it into their top 10 this year. This guy checks every box that needs to be checked except for mass. Tonio still needs a little bit more size, but shape, symmetry, proportions, conditioning, I think with Tonio checking all of those boxes, it will be enough to get him within the top 10. Now, why do I not have Tonio placing higher? Well, we have some pretty massive bodybuilders ahead of him. We have guys like Hunter, Andrew, Brandon, Samson. I just think Tonio needs more mass before he can truly crack those top ranks, but this guy is definitely on his way. I have him in my top 10. So in 8th place, I have Michael Krizo. This may be a shocker to some of you guys, and I definitely feel like Krizo can place higher, but pretty much the same critiques I had of Krizo last year. It's just the polish. Sometimes Krizo doesn't have the best tan, and also Krizo still isn't the best poser. He shakes just a little bit. And also, we have seen Michael Krizo fade in the past. I'm not saying that he will fade at the Mr. Olympia, but Krizo has came out at a show before looking incredible and just over the course slowly faded and started to sweat a lot, and that could be an issue at the Mr. Olympia. But just relating this to posing, I really think the polish of the other athletes, let's just say Hunter, Andrew, Nick, I think they're going to show more polish than Michael Krizo, and it's really going to shine through on that Olympia stage, especially with Big Steve taking them through rounds and rounds of posing. But Michael Krizo, once again, could definitely place higher, but from 12th place to 8th place in 1 year, it's a pretty big jump, And I think after that, Crizzo will continue to move up. But for this year, I like Crizzo in 8th place. And placing in 7th, I think is going to be the man, the myth, the Mona Lisa, Andrew Jacked. And this may be a little bit shocking to some of you. I definitely believe that Andrew can potentially place within that top 5, but same story when it comes to Andrew. I think he's going to lose ground from the side because of the hamstrings, and he's also going to lose ground in the back shots because of the hamstrings and the conditioning. But with Andrew, he is so impressive. This is a guy that you cannot count out. And I also want to mention, I believe the judges are going to place Andrew in 7th. My true prediction for Andrew is going to be 6th place. And with me saying that, you guys can probably guess who I have in 6th. And I think Andrew has definitely made improvements going into this year's Olympia, but I think he could make more if he didn't compete as much. Andrew has been a pro for maybe 2 years, has probably done 6, 7, possibly 8 shows, and he looks great. He's still improving, but with a little bit more time off, I definitely think that Andrew can leap over a couple of guys. But Andrew is close to 40. I can understand the urgency to compete, but I just wanted to mention that Andrew is one of the best bodybuilders in the sport, and I don't think he's really had a true off season. I'm going to predict Andrew in 7th place once again. My true prediction is 6th, but I don't think the judges will place him there. Now let's get into my 6th place prediction, and we have Hunter Labrada, the winner of the 2023 Tampa Pro, runner-up to Andrew at Texas. Hunter brought the best package of his life to this Tampa Pro. Can Hunter replicate this at this year's Olympia? Texas was pretty good. He was a little bit watery there, so he's about 50-50. We've seen Hunter bring his best one time to a bodybuilding stage. Can we expect that again at this year's Olympia? If Hunter is able to replicate or improve on his package from Tampa, I believe he will place in 6th, and I don't think that's the ceiling for Hunter Labrada. I believe he can potentially place higher depending on how other guys look. And for some reason, people just don't like Hunter. Well, probably because they feel like he is gifted placings. But if Hunter is on like he was at Tampa, he's a great bodybuilder. When Hunter's a little bit watery and still placing over guys, it's a little bit questionable. But again, I have Hunter placing 6th and possibly one spot higher if he improves on the Tampa Pro package. Now in 5th place, I have former Mr. Olympia Brandon Curry. And even though I have Brandon in 5th, he could very well place higher. I'm not sure if Brandon has made significant improvements since last year. I know that Brandon is bringing better conditioning, but outside of that, I'm not sure if he has improved much. And every guy I have placing ahead of him, I'm pretty sure at least 3 of them have made significant improvements. And of course, with Brandon being a former Mr. Olympia, you cannot count him out. He's 3D, bubbly, great arms, great back, finally looking like he's going to bring the conditioning. The only real thing I see holding Brandon back at this year's Olympia is going to be the size of the quads. We've seen images going into this show. They don't look terrible, but I think Brandon's legs still need to be bigger. If Brandon had the legs of Samson Dauda, I would be predicting him to win the entire show, but this is not the case. Honestly, I hope I'm wrong. I hope that Brandon places higher, maybe even wins the title, but I have him placing in 5th. Now into my 4th place prediction, I have Samson Dauda. And this entire year, I've been saying how impressive he was at the Arnold, and if he improves on this, he's going to be a very hard guy to beat. Why do I have Samson Dauda placing in 4th? Front double, front leg, side chest, side tricep, all great shots for Samson, but I think he's going to lose a lot of ground in the back poses due to his back and due to his conditioning. And you guys may say, well, you just said 4 poses he's great in. Yes, but I think the gap is pretty close in those shots. And just to explain that a little bit more, let's just say Samson is better than Derek and Nick in the front shots. Even if Samson is better, I don't think it's by much. But once we turn to the back shots, the back double bicep, I think there's going to be a big gap between Derek and Nick and Samson Dauda. And of course, again, that's just my personal opinion. Samson is great in the front shots, the side shots. He could absolutely overwhelm them. And if Samson brings the conditioning, he could possibly win the show. But I like him in 4th place. And in 3rd place, I have Derek Lunsford. And before you guys dislike the video or click off, just give me 1 second to explain. I know that Derek placed second in his Open Olympia debut, and of course, most people would think he would at least maintain that or move up. And both are very, very possible. Derek can definitely come in and win this year's Olympia. But for the sake of my predictions, third place. In order for Derek Lunsford to beat Hadi Choopan, I really think he needs more hardness, especially from the front. And this has been something that Derek has struggled with his entire career. And when Derek is training in the gym, we're seeing the detail, but we also saw the detail last year. How a bodybuilder looks while training doesn't really indicate how they're going to look on that stage. Again, I could be wrong. Derek could absolutely bring it and win, but I like him in third place. And as you guys can see, Derek has one of the best backs in bodybuilding, if not the best. But in the side shots, side chest, side tricep, he will struggle next to Samson and Nick. Front lat spread, he will struggle next to a guy like Hadi Choopan, Samson Dowda. But to wrap up, I have Derek placing in third because I don't think he will have the hardness from the front to match a guy like Hadi Choopan. And I also think that Derek will lose ground in both side shots as well as the front lat spread. Arguably in the ab and thigh and the most muscular as well because he does lack that detail from the front. Again, nothing against Derek, just being honest about why I have him in third. Now in second place, I'm going to do it, guys. I'm going to predict Nick the Mutant Walker to move up again at this year's Olympia. Nick Walker took second place to Samson Dowda at the 2023 Arnold Classic, and I honestly believe a lot of people somewhat wrote him off. Nick doesn't have the structure to be Mr. Olympia. He isn't going to be Samson again. He isn't going to be Derek. I don't agree with those statements. It's true that Nick Walker does not have the most aesthetic physique, but are we judging a bodybuilding show or a classic physique show? And I love Derek Lunsford, big fan, would be a great ambassador as Mr. Olympia, but outside of Derek having a more aesthetic physique, what does he really have over Nick Walker? Both of them have great backs. Nick has better arms. Both of them could use a little bit more work to the quads. Outside of Derek being more aesthetic, I think Nick pretty much outmuscles him in at least most of the muscle groups. And again, nothing against Derek, just being honest about why I have Nick in second place and why I have Derek placing in third. But Derek could win the Mr. Olympia. Nick Walker could win the Mr. Olympia. If Samson Dowda comes in better than the Arnold Classic, he could possibly win the Mr. Olympia. But by now, and pretty much this whole year, you guys have known who I have winning this show, and that is Hadi Choopan. Hadi is going to win his second Olympia title this year. And why do I have Hadi winning another Olympia title? In comparison to Samson Dowda, Hadi's conditioning is superior. I think Hadi has the ability to make Samson look soft. In comparison to Derek Lunsford, Hadi has a lot more hardness, a lot more detail from the front. That was an issue last year, and I think it will be an issue this year as well. And last, why do I not have Nick Walker winning this year's Olympia? I think the quad size will hold him back next to a guy like Hadi Choopan. Overall, I think Hadi is just going to check the most boxes at this year's Olympia. He isn't going to be the biggest guy, not the most 3D, the most bubbly, but I just think overall he is going to be the most complete, and he's going to walk away with another title. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you guys think of my predictions, and let me know your predictions in the comment section below. You guys are probably going to go crazy about me putting Derek in third place and Hunter over Andrew, but these are my honest predictions for this year's Olympia, non-political. I'm Krishan from GOAT Fitness. Make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss this weekend's Olympia coverage. I hope you did indeed enjoy this video. I'm out.